Project, and the first topic we're going to talk about is mixing colors. And with mixing colors, the way I'm going to talk about it is how you could adjust the hue, the value, and the saturation of the color. And just as a review, those are the three properties of color. As we talked about before, the hue is the name of the color on the color wheel. And any color you see can be placed in one of these 12 hues or between these 12 hues. Now, in some cases, you may already have the hue you want in the tube, but I would say this is more the exception. In most cases, you're going to have a hue that you want that is in between the hues you already have from the tube. You can't mix the primary colors of blue, red, and yellow. Okay, you have to start with these. But any of the other hues can be mixed. So, for example, if you want a yellow-green and you don't have yellow-green hue from the tube, then what you could do is you can find hues that are on the left-hand and right-hand side of yellow-green, in which case we have green and yellow, and you can mix this together, or mix these together. Okay, and I prefer to put my hues or my colors right out of the tube on the end of the palette and mix in this area. I got a little paint on my fingers. Okay, and I like to dip my paintbrush in a little water, get off any excess. Okay, so we're trying to make a yellow-green. So we have green. Okay, we're gonna get a little yellow. Okay, and guess what? You mix yellow and green, and you get yellow-green. Okay, it goes to the hue between yellow and green. Okay, and I'll put this on a piece of paper so you get an idea of what hue it makes. And there we go. Now, when you mix a color, you're gonna want to, if you do have one of these spray bottles, and I'd recommend getting one, I'd mist your color, okay? And you want to mist your mixed colors probably every 7 minutes, okay? Just so they don't dry. So let's say you want to make a orange, okay? And in our kit, we don't have orange. So what you would do is you would find hues on the right and left-hand side of orange. Okay, and we got yellow. And we got red right here. Okay, you can mix these two together and you'll get orange. Okay, and we got yellow over here, but I'll put a little bit more out. Okay, we'll place a little bit of red right here. Now, when you mix a new color, you're going to want to make sure that you have a clean brush. If I mix it with a dirty brush, the other color is going to get into my new color. So clean your brush out. Okay, and every once in a while, you're going to want to clean your water jar out. Okay, in your water jar, you could use a little plastic Solo cup. You could use really any type of plastic cup. I have a glass jar that I use just for paint. Okay, I wouldn't suggest using a cup that you use for drinking out of. You don't want to cross-contaminate. Okay, so we're trying to make orange, so we get yellow. And then we're gonna add a little bit of red, and the red has a higher tinting strength, so you're only gonna need a little bit of it. Okay, you're gonna add that in. And you want to mix the color well. And I would suggest against mixing it across the whole palette, okay? Because then you're creating more surface area for the paint to dry. So I'd keep it in a little area. Okay, and I think we need a little bit more red. Maybe not that much. Okay, and you put it on, and you get an orange. Okay, maybe go a little bit more red. All right, and you got an orange. Okay, we'll mix another color. So let's say you want a violet. Okay, you want a hue of violet, and you know, of the colors that are given in the kit, you don't have violet. So we have red there. Now let's mix, put a little blue. We'll mix red and blue and we'll get violet. Now, one thing that's important to know is that when you mix two hues together, the resulting hue that you get will be lower in saturation as the two original hues you started with. Okay, because the reason is that when you mix two colors together, they act like filters, and you're gonna lose some of the saturation through that process. Okay, in some cases you'd be like, "Whoa, why can't I get a bright violet?" And really, you know, in some cases you have to start with a bright violet, okay? Because the saturation will lower a little bit when you mix them together. Okay, so we're gonna mix a little bit of red with blue. And when you mix colors in, I would suggest just getting little bits at a time, okay? If you just grab a bunch and go like this, you're gonna get thrown in either direction, from, you know, red to then blue side, and then make it more red and then more bluer. Just get the little bits and add them little increments, okay? Little units. Okay, we got a violet, and as you can see, the violet's a little bit lower in saturation, and it's because these act like filters. Okay. Now, in the way we're going to be using the paint, you're not going to want to add a lot of water into the paint, okay? Try to keep it a little bit more buttery. Okay, so now we're going to talk about how to adjust the value of a color. And value is how light or dark a color is. Now, if you want to make the color lighter, you're going to add white. If you want to make it darker, you're going to add black. Okay, so let's say you want to, you got this yellow green, but you want a dark yellow green. You can add a little bit of black to it. Actually, wait. So let's say you want to make a dark yellow green. And what you could do, just get a little bit of black. I would say, like I said, do little increments. Now a little bit of black. See how strong the black is? Into the green. And what you'll get is a dark yellow green. Now let's say you want a light yellow green. In this case, I would actually start with the original hues again, because if you try to lighten this up, it's going to be very gray. In some cases you might want that. But you got to realize when you add black to it, you're also lowering the saturation. And then when you add white to it, you're also lowering the saturation again. So I'd start with the original hues, mix them together. You got your yellow green. Okay? And then you add just a little bit of white to it. And that'll give you a light yellow green. If you add more white to it, you'll get a lighter yellow green. Now, if you add white to that mixture you add the black to, then you're likely to get a very light and dull yellow green, which you may want, but in some cases you may not want that. Okay, so it has a slight tinge of the yellow green, but it's much duller than that. Okay. And you can see the difference in the saturation. Now, I would suggest against leaving your brushes inside your glass jar like this, or the plastic jar, whatever you're working with. The reason is because the longer you let them sit there, the more that the water will eat up the glues that hold this onto the handle. Okay, it'll fall off. So now we're going to talk about how to control saturation. And saturation is how light or dull a color is. Okay, so if you want to make a color duller, then you have two choices. You could add gray or you could add the complement. So for example, let's say you have red, and you want to make a duller red. So what you can do is you can mix a little bit of gray and you want to make sure it's the same value. Okay? Value being the lightness or darkness of the color. The reason is if it's a different value, it'll also change the value. Okay, so you make gray of the same value. Okay, and then what you're going to do, we're going to mix and what you're going to do is you're going to mix some of this gray into the red. And what you'll have is a duller red. The second method to lower your saturation is to add the complement. And the complement, and you'll have to go look at the color wheel when you do this. And I have a color wheel in the color lecture slides. The complement is the hue that's across from the hue you're talking about on the color wheel. It's the hue across from the hue on the color wheel. So the complement of red is green. So if you have red, you're going to add a little bit. And I would say, like I always say, start off with little increments. Add it in. Add a little green to it. And what you'll get is a red with a lower hue. Okay, this red has a lower hue than the red right out of the tube. Has a lower hue than that red. Now, let's say you want to make this brighter. Let's say you want to raise the saturation. The only thing that you could do is go back to the original hues and add them into that color. Okay, and there's a limit to this. You can only make it so bright. Okay, you can just go back and add the original hue into the mixture. Okay, and that, like you see, that brightened it up. Hello class, we're going to talk about the paint's opacity. And you can apply your paint more opaquely, or you can apply it more transparently. When a paint's applied more opaquely, it's going to cover up what's beneath it. When it's applied more transparently, what's beneath it is going to come through. To apply paint more transparently, you're going to add more water to it. And do you see how the line comes through? Okay, it's applied more transparently. Okay, to apply it more opaquely, you're going to add less water to it. Okay, you're going to apply enough paint, and you might have to apply 2 coats. So I'm going to let this dry. Okay, you'll notice that it's more opaque, okay? It's beginning to cover it up more.